I stood in the dusty aisles of Miller's General Store, running my fingers along shelves that hadn't changed since I was a child. The ancient cash register still sat on the counter, its brass finish dulled by decades of use. Sunlight filtered through windows that needed cleaning, casting patterns on the worn wooden floor where my father had taught me to stock shelves 30 years ago. "Sarah, you can't be serious." My brother Michael's voice cut through my nostalgia. "The property assessor valued this dump at less than $50,000. Your share of Dad's savings is worth 6 times that." I turned to face my siblings, Michael in his expensive suit, Patricia in her designer dress, both looking at me like I'd lost my mind. They'd flown in from their respective coastal cities for the reading of our father's will, already arguing over how to split his considerable liquid assets. "I've made my decision," I said quietly. "You two can split the money. I'm taking the store." Patricia threw up her hands in exasperation. "This is ridiculous. You're giving up $300,000 for a failing business in the middle of nowhere. The place barely breaks even." She wasn't wrong about the numbers. Miller's General Store had been struggling for years, hanging on mainly because our father refused to close the place where he'd raised his family. The small town of Cedar Grove had been slowly dying as younger people moved away, leaving behind an aging population that could barely keep the few remaining businesses afloat. "It's not about the money," I tried to explain. "This store was Dad's life. It meant something to him." "Dad's dead," Michael said bluntly, "and sentiment doesn't pay bills. Take the cash, Sarah. Be smart for once in your life." I felt the familiar sting of his condescension. Michael, the successful investment banker. Patricia, the high-powered attorney. And me? Just the middle child who'd stayed in Cedar Grove, helping Dad run the store while getting my business degree from the local college. "The decision's made," I said firmly. "Mr. Harrison has the paperwork ready at his office. We can sign this afternoon." Patricia shook her head, her perfect blonde hair swaying. "Fine, throw your inheritance away, but don't come crying to us when this place finally goes under." They left in a cloud of expensive perfume and disapproval, the bell over the door chiming their exit just as it had thousands of times before. I sank onto the old stool behind the counter, remembering how Dad used to sit there, greeting every customer by name. "You sure about this, Sarah?" Tom Harrison, our family's longtime lawyer, had stayed behind. He'd known me since I was a kid stealing penny candy from the jar that still sat on the counter. "Did you know about the highway proposal?" I asked instead of answering. He blinked, obviously surprised. "The interstate expansion, it's just a rumor. The state won't make a decision for months, maybe years." I pulled a folder from my bag and handed it to him. Inside were detailed maps, environmental impact studies, and most importantly, the preliminary approval for a new highway exit that would dump traffic less than a quarter mile from Miller's General Store. "Where did you get these?" Tom asked, flipping through pages. "I didn't spend all those years just stocking shelves," I said. "While Dad ran the store, I got my business degree, did market research, made connections with the city planning office. That highway isn't a rumor, it's happening. They're announcing it next month." Understanding dawned on his face. "And when they do, property values in the area will skyrocket," I finished, "especially commercial lots with good road access. Like this one." He looked around the store with new eyes. "Does anyone else know?" "Just the planning committee and a few investors they're courting. I found out because I've been attending the town council meetings for years. Nobody pays attention to the quiet one taking notes in the back row." Tom chuckled. "You always were the smart one, no matter what your siblings think." He sobered. "But Sarah, even with the highway coming, turning this place around won't be easy. The building needs work. The inventory is outdated." "I know." I stood up, walking the aisles I knew by heart. "But I got plans, big ones." I did too. While Michael and Patricia had been building their careers in bigger cities, I'd been studying, learning, preparing. Dad might not have understood my endless questions about supply chains and profit margins, but he'd supported me anyway. He even paid for extra business classes when I expressed interest in modernizing the store's operations. "Your father knew," Tom said suddenly, "about the highway. That's why he changed his will last month." I stopped, surprised. "What?" "He left the store entirely up to your choice. Said you'd know what to do with it." Tom smiled. Guess he was right. A lump formed in my throat. Dad and I hadn't always understood each other, But he believed in me when no one else did. Now I had the chance to prove that faith wasn't misplaced. The next few weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and planning. Michael and Patricia left town immediately after the will was settled, making it clear they wanted nothing to do with my foolish decision. I didn't mind. For the first time in my life, I was completely in charge of my own destiny. I started small, cleaning and organizing, taking inventory of what worked and what needed to change. The store had good bones, solid construction, a prime location at the town's main intersection, and plenty of parking space that would become invaluable once the highway exit opened. But it needed work. A lot of work. "You're crazy," Ben Tucker told me when I hired his construction company to renovate. Ben had been my high school sweetheart before life took us in different directions. Now he ran the most respected construction firm in 3 counties. "Probably," I agreed, showing him my plans. "But look at these drawings. Modern retail space in front, warehouse capability in back. New loading dock, expanded parking. Thinking bigger than a general store?" "Much bigger." I pulled out the highway plans. "See this exit? In 2 years, this will be the main route into town. We'll have thousands of cars passing by daily. The store needs to be ready." Ben studied the drawings, his contractor's mind already working. "It's a solid plan, Sarah, but it'll cost a lot. I've got investors lined up." Another surprise for my siblings. While they've been dismissing me as the quiet one watching the store, I've been building relationships with local business leaders, people who believe in Cedar Grove's future. "Like me," Ben said quietly. Our eyes met for a moment, and I remembered why I'd once thought we'd spend our lives together. But that was a long time ago. "The work needs to be done before the highway announcement," I said, all business again. "Once that happens, every contractor in the county will be booked solid." Ben nodded. "We can start next week." "But Sarah," he hesitated, "your siblings. They're going to be angry when they realize what you've done." "They're already angry." I shrugged. "Might as well give them a real reason." The renovation began on a Monday. By Wednesday, half the town was talking about my foolishness, investing money in a dying business in a dying town. I ignored them, focusing on the future I could see so clearly. The old shelving came out first, replaced by modern retail fixtures. The creaky wooden floor was restored to its original glory. New lighting transformed the space from dim and dated to bright and welcoming. Every change hurt my dwindling savings, but I knew it would be worth it. "You're bleeding money," my accountant warned me after the first month. "The store's income can't support these improvements." "It will," I promised. "Just wait." I worked 18-hour days, running the store while supervising renovations. The old-timers who'd been shopping here for decades grumbled about the changes, but even they had to admit the place looked better. Younger families started coming in, attracted by the cleaner space and modernized inventory. Then came the first test of my resolve. "Sarah?" Mrs. Jenkins, my nearest neighbor, caught me as I was closing up one night. "I heard a rumor about developers wanting to buy up property along Main Street." My heart skipped. "Oh?" "Offering good money, they say. Above market value." She peered at me. "Had any offers?" "I had 3 in the past week, each higher than the last." Word was leaking about the highway, though nothing official had been announced. "Not interested in selling," I said firmly. "But surely, with all the money you're spending on renovations." I just smiled and wished her good night. Let them think I was foolish. Soon they'd understand. The next morning, I found Michael waiting in the parking lot, looking distinctly out of place in his $1,000 suit. "I hear you're turning down purchase offers," he said without preamble. "Hello to you too, brother." "Sarah, be reasonable. I've got a client willing to pay 3 times what this place is worth. Take the money and walk away." I unlocked the store's front door, breathing in the familiar scent of wood and memories. "Not interested." "Damn it, Sarah." He grabbed my arm. "I'm trying to help you. Dad's gone. You don't have to prove anything anymore." I pulled away. "You never understood him, Michael. Or me. This isn't about proving anything. It's about building something." "Building what?" "A general store in a town that's practically a ghost town." "You'll see." I left him standing in the parking lot, as confused as he'd always been by the sister who didn't fit his worldview. But Michael's visit was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, more developers came calling. Some tried to charm me, others to intimidate. Patricia even flew in from Los Angeles, armed with legal arguments about fiduciary responsibility and missed opportunities. I turned them all down. The renovations continued, eating through my savings and the small business loan I'd secured. Some days, watching the numbers in my account drop, I wondered if my siblings were right, if I was being foolish, throwing good money after bad. Then I'd look at the highway plans hidden away in my office and remember what Dad used to say. Sometimes you have to believe in something before anyone else can see it. I believed in Miller's General Store, in Cedar Grove, in myself, and soon everyone else would too. But that's another part of the story. The morning of the highway announcement arrived with a mix of fog and anticipation. I stood in Miller's newly renovated storefront, watching town council members and state officials set up for their press conference in the park across the street. Television vans lined Main Street, their satellite dishes reaching skyward like mechanical flowers. Quite a crowd, Ben observed, joining me at the window. The renovation was nearly complete. Though we kept the iconic Miller's sign, some things were worth preserving. Wait until they make the announcement, I said quietly. This is nothing compared to what's coming. My phone buzzed. Michael calling for the third time that morning. I ignored it, just as I'd ignored Patricia's increasingly threatening emails about family responsibility and fiscal insanity. They figured out something was happening in Cedar Grove, but they were still in the dark about the scale of it. The store's new automatic doors whispered open, admitting Tom Harrison. Our family lawyer looked harried, his bow tie slightly askew. Sarah, we need to talk. Your siblings have filed an injunction to prevent me from selling the property. I smiled. Let me guess. They're claiming Dad wasn't of sound mind when he changed the will. Tom blinked. How did you? Because I know my siblings. And because 3 different developers called this morning, hinting they'd help fight any legal challenges if I agreed to sell to them. This is serious, Sarah. They've hired Blackwood and Reed, top real estate attorneys. Let them waste their money. I turned from the window, surveying the transformed space. The old general store had become something entirely new. Modern retail displays, a gourmet coffee bar, and local artisan goods mixed with everyday necessities. The warehouse space in back was ready too, though no one knew what for. Yet. You're not planning to sell at all, are you? Tom asked slowly. Tom, what's the largest retailer in Cedar Grove? He frowned. Well, since the Walmart closed last year, I guess Miller's is, now that you've expanded. And how many delivery services operate in the county? None since the pandemic killed that startup last winter. I smiled. Wrong, one starts operations today. Understanding dawned on his face. The warehouse space, the loading docks. Miller's isn't just a store anymore, I explained. It's a distribution hub. We'll serve 3 counties, delivering everything from groceries to hardware. The highway exit makes us the perfect location. But the announcement hasn't even. The sound of microphone feedback cut him off. Outside, the mayor was approaching the podium, flanked by state transportation officials. The crowd, much larger now, pressed forward eagerly. I didn't need to hear the speech. I'd been preparing for this moment for months. Instead, I watched faces in the crowd as the mayor revealed the interstate expansion plans, complete with Cedar Grove's new exit ramp, conveniently located just down the road from Miller's. The reaction was immediate. People gasped, pointed, already turning to look at nearby properties with new eyes. Property values would triple, at minimum. Commercial lots like mine would be worth even more. My phone exploded with notifications. Michael and Patricia had obviously heard the news. A text from Michael popped up. Do not sell to anyone. Call me immediately. I deleted it without reading the rest. Sarah, Ben called from the back. You've got visitors. I turned to find 3 men in expensive suits being admitted through the loading dock entrance. I recognized them immediately. Executives from National Market Chain, one of the largest retail corporations in the country. Ms. Miller, the oldest one, stepped forward, hand extended. I'm James Whitmore, Vice President of Acquisitions for NNC. We've been following your operation with great interest. Of course they had. I'd made sure word of my renovations and expansion reached the right ears. Gentlemen, I kept my voice professionally neutral. This is quite a surprise. Is it? Whitmore smiled. You've positioned yourself brilliantly. Modern facility, strategic location, distribution capabilities. exactly what we look for in new franchise locations. And there it was, the real reason for their visit. National Market Chain had been trying to establish a presence in this part of the state for years, but property costs and local opposition had stymied them. Now, with the highway coming, we're prepared to make a very generous offer, another executive chimed in, both for the property and for ongoing franchise rights. I gestured to my office. Let's discuss it. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Their initial offer was impressive, enough to make Michael and Patricia's inheritance shares look like pocket change. But I had my own terms. Miller's keeps its name, I insisted. We maintain local control over inventory and operations. And the distribution network serves independent retailers too, not just national market chain stores. Whitmore frowned. That's unusual. Normally our franchise agreements are more standardized. This isn't a normal situation. I laid out my market research, showing population projections, traffic patterns, retail gaps in surrounding communities. You're not just buying a store location. You're buying a ready-made distribution network in an underserved region. One that's about to experience massive growth. They huddled in whispered consultation while I waited calmly. Finally, Whitmore spoke. Your terms are acceptable, with some modifications. We'll have our lawyers draw up. My lawyers will draw up the papers, I corrected. I believe you know the firm, Blackwood and Reed. Whitmore's eyebrows shot up. Your siblings' attorneys? Not anymore. As of this morning, they work for me. Amazing what you can accomplish with the right business plan and profit projections. After the executives left, Ben found me in the office, staring at the old photo of Dad behind the counter. You planned this whole thing, he said. It wasn't a question. The renovations, the distribution setup, even letting word leak to National Market Chain. I had a good teacher. I touched Dad's photograph. He always said opportunity comes to those who prepare for it. Sarah, Tom burst in, waving his phone. You won't believe. Blackwood and Reed just withdrew from your siblings' case. They're representing you now, along with handling the National Market Chain contracts. I smiled at his astonished expression. Amazing how quickly top law firms change allegiance when they realize which side has the better position. My phone buzzed again. Patricia this time, probably having just heard about her lawyers jumping ship. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. How dare you? She shrieked without preamble. You manipulative little. You knew about the highway all along. Yes. You let us think you were being sentimental, taking that worthless store while we got the cash. But you played us. No, Patricia. I let you be exactly who you are. People so convinced of your own superiority that you never bothered to look deeper. Just like you never bothered to understand Dad, or this town, or me. We're contesting everything, she seethed. The will, the store ownership, all of it. Michael's already talking to other attorneys. Tell Michael to check his email first, I suggested mildly. The one from his biggest investment client. They've signed an exclusive shipping contract with Miller's Distribution Services. Amazing how much influence you can have when you control the only distribution hub in 3 counties. Silence. Then, you wouldn't. Cancel the lawsuits, Patricia. Stop trying to interfere. Or Michael's client won't be the only one reconsidering their business relationships. I ended the call to find Ben and Tom staring at me with a mixture of admiration and shock. Remind me never to underestimate you, Ben said finally. I looked out the window at the dispersing crowd, already imagining the changes coming to Cedar Grove. The highway exit would bring new businesses, new families, new life to our fading town. And at the heart of it all would be Miller's, not just a general store anymore, but the center of a retail and distribution network that would serve the entire region. My siblings had laughed when I chose the store over cash. They dismissed me as sentimental, foolish, stuck in the past. But I'd seen the future coming and I prepared for it. Now they'd understand exactly what they'd given up, not just the property value, but the chance to be part of something bigger than their own ambitions. Sarah? Tom's voice broke into my thoughts. Your brother's on the other line, says it's urgent. I smiled, remembering all the times Michael had patronized me, treated me like the family failure. Tell him I'm busy. I've got an empire to build. But the empire would have to wait a few more hours. I had a store to run, customers to serve, a legacy to honor and transform. Dad had believed in me when no one else did. Now I would prove that his faith was justified. The automatic doors whispered open again, admitting the first curious locals eager to see what all the commotion was about. Time to show them that Miller's and Cedar Grove were just getting started. The real changes were still to come. But that's another part of the story. 6 months after the highway announcement, I stood in Miller's expanded parking lot watching the new sign being installed. The familiar Miller's remained, but underneath now read, "A national market chain partner, serving Cedar Grove since 1952. The lot was full, as it had been every day since we launched the distribution service. Local restaurants picked up supplies in the morning, delivery vans came and went throughout the day, and regular customers kept the retail floor busy. We'd had to hire 20 new employees just to keep up with demand." "Looking good," Ben said, joining me outside. His construction company had become our go-to contractor, handling expansions for both the main store and our new satellite locations in neighboring towns. "The highway exit opens next week," I replied, just in time for holiday shopping. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "We need to talk. In person, please." It was the please that caught my attention. My brother hadn't said please to me in 20 years. Before I could respond, a sleek black car pulled into the lot. Patricia stepped out, looking oddly uncertain in her designer suit. Behind her, Michael emerged from the driver's side. "Well," I said quietly to Ben, "this should be interesting." My siblings approached slowly, taking in the transformed property. The old general store was now the centerpiece of a modern retail complex. Loading docks hummed with activity, delivery vans came and went, and customers streamed in and out of the automatic doors. "Sarah," Michael spoke first, his usual arrogance notably absent, "you've been busy." "Very," I kept my voice neutral. "What brings you both here? More legal threats?" Patricia flinched. "We dropped all the lawsuits. You know that." "I do. I also know Michael's investment firm just lost 3 more clients to companies that ship exclusively through Miller's distribution." "That's actually why we're here," Michael said. "To talk business, real business." I raised an eyebrow but gestured toward the store. "My office is upstairs." They followed me through the retail floor, past the gourmet coffee bar where locals gathered for their morning caffeine, past the artisan goods section featuring products from small businesses across 3 counties. Everything that made Cedar Grove special, wrapped in modern retail efficiency. "You've kept a lot of the old elements," Patricia observed, touching a restored wooden beam. "Some things are worth preserving." My office occupied Dad's old storage room, though now it had windows overlooking Main Street. His original desk sat in one corner, restored and polished. The wall behind it held the store's first dollar, framed beside the multi-million-dollar contract with National Market Chain. "Nice view," Michael said, taking a seat. "You can see the highway construction from here." "That's the point." I settled behind the desk. "What do you want?" My siblings exchanged glances. Patricia spoke first. "We were wrong," she said simply. "About the store, about you, about everything." "We didn't see what Dad saw," Michael added. "The potential, the vision. And now that it's successful, you want in." My tone made it clear what I thought of their timing. "No," Patricia surprised me. "We want to apologize." Michael pulled out a folder. "And to show you something. Remember when Dad took that trip last spring, right before he got sick?" I nodded. Dad had disappeared for a week, coming back quieter than usual. "He came to see me," Michael said. "Showed me plans for expanding the store, modernizing it. Asked for investment advice." He slid the folder across the desk. I laughed at him. Told him it was a waste of time. I opened the folder. Inside were rough sketches of everything I built, the distribution network, the modernized store, even the satellite locations. Dad's handwriting covered the margins with notes and calculations. "He had the same vision you did," Patricia said softly. "He just didn't live to see it happen." "Why are you showing me this?" Michael leaned forward. "Because we finally understand. Dad didn't leave you the store out of sentiment. He left it to you because you were the only one who could make his dream real." I stared at the sketches, throat tight. All those years helping in the store, asking questions, learning the business. Dad had been preparing me. He'd seen what the store could become, just as I had. "We'd like to invest," Michael continued. "Not to take over, we've learned that lesson, but to be part of what you're building. What Dad wanted to build." "On your terms," Patricia added quickly. We'll take minority shares, no voting rights. We want to help grow Dad's legacy. I looked at my siblings, really looked at them. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something I'd never seen before. Respect. I'll have to think about it, I said finally. Of course, they stood to leave, but Patricia paused at the door. Sarah? That day at the will reading, when you took the store instead of cash, you weren't being sentimental at all, were you? I smiled. I was. Just not about the money. After they left, I sat looking at Dad's plans. They matched mine almost exactly. He'd seen the same opportunities, understood the same changes coming to Cedar Grove. He'd known what the store could become in the right hands. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Miller? The national market chain executives are here for the franchise review. Send them up. I tucked Dad's plans into my desk drawer. Time to show another group of doubters exactly what a small-town store could do. The next few months transformed Cedar Grove. The highway exit opened, bringing a steady stream of travelers and commuters. Other businesses sprang up along the route, but Miller's remained the heart of town. Part modern retail hub, part community center, part distribution network serving the entire region. Michael and Patricia became silent partners, their business expertise actually proving useful as we expanded. They never tried to take control, never questioned my decisions. Instead, they watched and learned as their foolish sister turned a dying general store into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. 1 year to the day after the highway opened, we held a grand celebration. The parking lot became a street fair with local vendors, live music, and hundreds of people enjoying the autumn sunshine. I stood beside the old Miller's sign, now the flagship of a growing retail chain, and remembered Dad's words. Sometimes you have to believe in something before anyone else can see it. The town council presented me with a ceremonial key to the city. The mayor made a speech about vision and progress. But the moment that meant most came later, after the crowds had gone. You did it, kid, Ben said, finding me in Dad's old office. You really did it. We did it, I corrected. The whole town did it. We just needed someone to believe it was possible. Your father would be proud. He knew. I touched the sketch in my desk drawer. He always knew. Cedar Grove wasn't dying anymore. The highway had brought new life, new opportunities, new families moving in. But it wasn't just the highway, it was the people who'd seen what was coming and prepared for it. People like Dad, who'd quietly planned for a future he wouldn't live to see. People like me, who'd chosen a rundown store over quick cash because we believed in something bigger. My siblings had laughed when I picked the store. They called me foolish, sentimental, stuck in the past. But sometimes the past is just the foundation for the future. Sometimes an old general store is really the seed of something greater. And sometimes the quiet one, the one everyone underestimates, is the one who sees it all coming. Standing in my office that evening, watching darkness fall over the busy parking lot, I smiled at Dad's old photo on the wall. We did it, I whispered. We turned your little store into something amazing. The automatic doors whispered open below, admitting late customers into the bright, welcoming space. Delivery vans pulled in to collect tomorrow's shipments. The coffee bar hosted a local book club meeting. Everything Dad had dreamed of, everything I had built, humming with life and possibility. Michael and Patricia had finally understood what they'd given up, not just the real estate value, but the chance to be part of something special. They'd learned their lesson about underestimating quiet sisters and small-town stores. But by then, I didn't need their approval anymore. I had built something bigger than their doubts, stronger than their dismissal, more valuable than any cash inheritance. I had taken Dad's dream and made it real. And in the end, that was worth more than all the highway exits in the world. The store's lights glowed in the gathering dark, a beacon for travelers and locals alike. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to grow. But tonight, I simply stood at my window and watched my little town embrace its future. They called the store worthless until the highway changed everything. But they'd been wrong about both. The highway didn't change the store's value. It just helped everyone else see what Dad and I had known all along. Sometimes the best investments aren't the ones that look good on paper. Sometimes they're the ones that look like rundown general stores in dying towns, waiting for someone to believe in them. Dad had believed. I had believed. And now finally, everyone else did too.